For problem 110, we need to solve each equation. So for A, we have the quantity of x plus 2 multiplied by the quantity of x plus 3. So we need to go ahead and distribute these terms to these two terms. So x needs to be multiplied by these two terms, and then 2 also needs to be multiplied by these two terms. So x multiplied by x equals x squared. Then x multiplied by 3 equals positive 3x. Now we go to the second term. 2 multiplied by x is 2x. And then 2 multiplied by 3 is positive 6. Here we have common terms. So 3x plus 2x equals 5x. And now we want to get the x squares to one side. So we're going to subtract x squared from both sides. And these end up being both 0 pairs. So now we're left with 5x plus 6 equals negative 10. Still don't have x by itself. Inverse property of addition is subtraction. So we're going to subtract 6 from both sides. This creates a 0 pair. And here we have a negative 10 and a negative 6. So they're both negative, so you know it's going to be a negative. When the signs are the same, you add them together. So 10 plus 6 is 16, so it's negative 16. Here's multiplication. Inverse property of multiplication is division. So we're going to divide both sides by 5 because 5 divided by 5 is 1. This creates the giant 1. What you do to one side, you do to the other. And so we end up with x equals negative 16 fifths or negative 3 1/5. For B, we first want to use the fraction buster method to get rid of all of these fractions. And the way you do it is by multiplying each of these terms by a common multiple of these three. So the least common multiple of 2, 3, and 6 is 6, because 2, 4, 6, and then 3, 6, and then 6 is just 6. And when we do that, now we're going to multiply 6 multiplied by 1/2, and this is, I put it over here, this is what it would look like. 6 multiplied by 1/2, 6 multiplied by 1 is 6, 1 multiplied by 2 is 2, 6 divided by 2 is 3. Or you can just say half of 6 is 3. So we need to distribute to this term, which we get 3. And then 6 multiplied by 1/3 is 2, so we get 2x. 6 multiplied by negative 7 is negative 42. And then we also have to multiply the right side by 6, and here we have 6 divided by 6 is 1, so these cancel out, which gives us 5, so we have 5x. Here we have like terms, 3x plus 2x, which equals 5x. Now I'm going to get 5x, or the x's, to one side, so inverse property of addition is subtraction, so I'm going to subtract 5x from both sides. And we created a 0 pair here, and a 0 pair here. 5x minus 5x equals 0. So we get negative 42 equals 0. Well, that's not a true statement. And since it's not a true statement, there's no solution. So what that means is there's no value for x that I can put in this equation to make it true. For 5/111, what is the equation of a line that has a y-intercept at 0, negative 3, and passes through the point negative 9, negative 9? So if it's a line, it can be written in slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. And we know that the y-intercept is at negative 3, 0 on the x, negative 3 on the y. So our y-intercept, the b value, is going to be negative 3. Here's what it looks like in a graph. So when x is 0, you don't go anywhere on the x-axis, but negative 3 on the y, 1, 2, 3, this is our y-intercept, negative 3. And now we have to find the slope. And to find the slope, we can plug in the values for x and y, because we know it goes through negative 9 on the x and negative 9 on the y. So for y, I put in the value of negative 9, and for x, I put in the value of negative 9. And now we're going to solve for m, the slope. So we have a negative 3 here, so we're going to add 3 to both sides. That creates a 0 pair. And then negative 9 plus 3, we have more negatives than positives, so we know it's going to be a negative. The signs are opposite, so you're going to subtract. 9 minus 3 is 6, so you end up with negative 6. Still don't have the slope by itself, m, and so we have m multiplied by negative 9. Inverse property of multiplication is division, so we're going to divide both sides by negative 9. This creates a giant 1, and then a negative 6 divided by a negative 9 will equal a positive 6, 9. So the slope, m equals 6 9ths, or 2/3. So we get the slope of m equals 2/3. And then we wanted to find the equation of this line. So we know the y-intercept is negative 3, and we just found the slope. So y equals 2/3 x minus 3. For 112, we need to calculate each of the following values. So if f of x equals f of negative 3, we plug in negative 3 for the x values. So here's the x. F of x equals negative 3. And so now we simplify. Negative 3 plus 2 equals negative 1. And we have negative 1 divided by negative 1 equals a negative 1. So f of negative 3 equals negative 1. For b, we have f of negative 1.5. So x equals negative 1.5. And negative 1.5 plus 2 equals 0.5. And when we simplify this, 1 divided by 0.5 equals 2. So now we're going to calculate f of x when f of negative 2. So x equals negative 2. And here we have negative 2 plus 2 equals 0. And when that's like saying I have 1 of nothing. And you can't have 1 of something, or 1 of nothing. So this is undefined. For d, we're solving now for x, if f of x equals 5. So now f of x, we have that value, is 5. Now we need to solve for x. In order to do that, we need to get x by itself. So we're going to go ahead and do a fraction buster, and you multiply it by x plus 2. This cancels out because x plus 2 divided by x plus 2 is 1. And what you do to one side, you do to the other. So we're left with 1 on the right side, and now we have to distribute this 5 to both of these terms. 5 multiplied by x is 5x. 5 multiplied by 2 is 10, and now we solve for x. We subtract 10 from both sides, 0 pair. 1 minus 10 is negative 9. And to get x by itself, we divide both sides by 5. And we end up with x equals negative 9/5, or negative 1.8.